Hey, welcome to Socialism for All. Today's date is April 21st, 2021, and yesterday we had really big news in the Derek Chauvin trial. After a very short deliberation, a jury found Chauvin guilty on all three of the charges that he was up for related to murdering George Floyd in broad daylight on video. The three other cops who stood around while Chauvin did this, basically protecting him and enabling him, will go on trial later this year, I believe in August. Was justice done? I mean, in a really just world, George Floyd would still be alive. However, at least they found the guy guilty. But let this case go to show, compared to the many other instances of police murders, particularly of people of color for absolutely no reason, unarmed, etc., that in the majority of these cases, the cop is never charged, let alone found guilty. If you want a conviction, you need about 6 months of unruly protests and rioting with the victim's name attached to them. Think about that. That's what it takes to convict a cop. It takes 6 months of a nationwide uprising just to convict a cop. Meanwhile, the police violence goes on, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. First of all, let's hear from Nancy Pelosi of the utterly, actually worse than useless, harmful Democratic Party.
Thank you, George Floyd, for sacrificing your life for justice, for being there to call out to your mom. How heartbreaking was that? Call out for your mom. I can't breathe. But because of you, and because of thousands, millions of people around the world who came out for justice, your name will always be synonymous with justice.
Nancy Pelosi must have been utterly shit-faced to make a statement like that. Think about what she just said. George Floyd didn't sacrifice himself for justice. He went out to do some errands and he got murdered by a cop. He got lynched in broad daylight by a servant of the U.S. imperial state. That's what happened. He didn't sacrifice himself for justice. Justice was obtained relative to, the situation in this case. The cop at least got convicted. But George Floyd didn't sacrifice himself for that. He was the victim. Like, what can you even say? She thanks him for sacrificing his life. No, he didn't. So that his murderer could be brought to justice. Well, if the guy hadn't fucking murdered him in the first place, there wouldn't have been a fucking need for it. How about that? Next, she thanks him for being there, aka being murdered, so that he could call out to his mom. She's on drugs. She's on drugs. There's no other explanation for this. And then, in true Democratic Party form, everyone standing behind her, not a single fucking one of them, is like, what the fuck did you just say? I've said it many times before. I'll say it again. The task for the U.S. left is to detach from the Democratic Party and build an independent left party, period. It can be a coalition, whatever, of multiple parties, but it's got to be independent of the Democratic Party. The Democrats and Republicans are intertwined, part of the same governing mechanism. Have to get out of it. There's just nothing that can be done with this party, period. Okay, coming back. I personally am heartened by this guilty verdict. If they had returned a not guilty verdict, I can't even imagine. Does anyone remember Rodney King, for example? LA riots ring a bell. That was another case of, in that case, non-lethal police violence that was also caught on video. And they found those cops not guilty. Nobody was having it. I can only imagine what would have happened in this case had that happened. Fortunately, it didn't. But case closed, nation heals? Absolutely not. No sooner had the verdict been read out than another incident crossed the news desk, this time from Columbus, Ohio. We have a story here. Columbus PD shoots 16-year-old Ma'Khia Bryant 4 times in the chest, killing her after she called them for help. This is a story by Robert Littall. Here is what we know. Quote, 16-year-old Ma'Khia Bryant called the police because she was about to get jumped by some other girls. She had a knife in her possession. Something went horribly wrong, and the cops shot her 4 times in the chest, killing her instantly. Protesters are on the scene, and the cops are about to make a statement. Take it with a grain of salt. The mayor, who called Bryant a, quote, young woman when she is a child, says there is body cam footage. This happened on the same day Derek Chauvin was found guilty of murdering George Floyd. The cops released edited body cam footage. It shows two women and a man fighting. The cop is never threatened with the knife, and he shot Bryant as she attacked another woman. That cop's name has been released. It is Nicholas Reardon. There he is on the screen. Columbus PD have taken him off of patrol currently. We are still waiting for more news on his status. There is body cam footage available now. It's not the entire footage from what I understand. I'm not going to include it here in this video. It's already online in a million places. You can find that anywhere. But I am going to show a video of cops at the scene saying Blue Lives Matter, which is not received well by bystanders.
Yeah, and I heard Ford, and I ran out. My 2-year-old was out here, bro. Like, the fuck, that shit.
Your 2-year-old got shot.
Yeah, she was right here. Where my red car at?
Yeah, because I just happened to look out my front door. I saw that cop car, 9142, sitting out there.
On Legion, out east. But yeah, so.
Blue lives matter. Crazy.
Yep.
Insult. Especially at this place right now.
Yeah, it's definitely an insult. You sound stupid as fuck, bitch. Fuck.
That flag is a Blue Lives Matter flag.
The fuck, that girl just got shot. Did he just say that? He said, well, Blue Lives Matter? He just said that? Boy, shut the fuck up, because Blue Lives don't matter right now. I don't want to hear none of that dumb shit. The fuck is you?
So what's going on in Columbus? I don't know. I don't live in Columbus, I guess, thankfully. But here's a Daily Beast article from just, well, less than 3 months ago. Columbus police chief out just 1 month after killing of Andre Hill. This is a case I never heard about. This is published January 28, 2021. Columbus Police Chief Thomas Quinlan is out, the city's mayor said in a statement Thursday. Quote, "It became clear to me that Chief Quinlan could not successfully implement the reform and change I expect and that the community demands," unquote, Mayor Andrew Ginther said in a statement. Columbus residents have lost faith in him, etc., etc. But of course, it's not just Columbus. There is an epidemic of racist police violence going on across the United States by the police gangs who are empowered by the capitalist class to just run roughshod over workers and particularly working people of color. You see on the screen here graphics of police budget compared to other countries, and then a graphic of black-white disparity in killings by police in recent years taken from website Mapping Police Violence. Because the capitalist class wants it all, and they want it now. We see just this push, particularly since 9/11, although they laid the groundwork for it in the 90s and somewhat in the 80s as well. Just this all-out push for a police state and the rise of the far right, particularly since the demise of the Soviet Union. We see here on the screen the disparity between the way that innocent, nonviolent, unarmed people of color are treated and the way that fascist terrorists are treated. Speaking of, here's a story from the New York Daily News. A Virginia police officer has been, quote, relieved of duty after he expressed support for Kenosha shooter Kyle Rittenhouse and donated to his defense fund. Quick side note, the initial Facebook page for Socialism for All got destroyed after libertarians flooded it and mass reported the page in support of Kyle Rittenhouse. They love this kid. He is everything that they want the youth of America to be, white youth anyway. Moving on with the story, there was a Guardian report last week that named many police officers and public officials who had donated to Rittenhouse. This guy, Lieutenant William Kelly, donated $25 using his department email address. Also wrote a message of encouragement to Rittenhouse, quote, "God bless. Thank you for your courage. Keep your head up. You've done nothing wrong. Every rank-and-file police officer supports you." So there you have it. They have declared war on us. Every rank-and-file police officer that guy knows, apparently, supports right-wing vigilantes. If you still can't see the dynamics, I'm not sure what to say to you. Leave a comment. We'll maybe have a discussion. And it's not just these cases either. There are too many to name. It's not just Paula Bryant, the aunt of Ma'Khia Bryant, pictured on the screen here, who is left with a hole in her life due to out-of-control, racist police gangs who operate on behalf of the 1% of the United States. Let's jump over to Knoxville, Tennessee. Here's a video from somebody who lives there and has details on what supposedly was a school shooting, but as it turns out, may in fact have just been another police murder of a black teenager on school grounds.
This isn't the kind of content that I normally post, but it's extremely important, and I haven't seen anyone talking about it on TikTok, so please listen. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee, and earlier this week news broke that there was a school shooting at Austin East High School in Knoxville. The official TBI statement said that the suspect shot an officer and officers returned fire. This was largely perceived as a potential school shooting that a brave officer prevented. TBI has since revised their statement. The officer who was injured was not shot by the student. He shot himself. Officers shot and killed a 17-year-old black student in the bathroom of his high school. Despite requests from our mayor and the other officers involved, the DA refuses to release body cam footage of the incident. The Knoxville Police Department had these body cams installed 11 days prior to the shooting to increase transparency and trust in the local police department. They also cost $5 million. This was not a school shooting as it was widely reported. It was a single black student killed by police officers. We won't know what really happened until the DA releases the body cam footage. Please help share this message so we can put pressure on our DA. We deserve the truth. His name was Anthony J. Thompson.
So on the screen here, I have posted some information in relation to the Anthony Thompson case. There is the DA's office number, also Knoxville Mayor Glenn Jacobs' office number. Please call them and pressure them to release the body cam footage, which they are refusing to do currently. But while you can and should do that, we've also got to take a step back at this whole situation and say, there is a war raging in the United States. It's not a war that we want. Working people just want to go about our lives in peace. We want to go to work and not be exploited. We want educational opportunities, medicine, housing, all of that stuff you need to have a good quality life in the modern age. But the big capitalists in this country, as part of the big capitalist system around the world, international stock markets and trading, a lot of which is headquartered here in the United States, on behalf of those people, they own the politics. And they are violent, and they're greedy, and they're desperate to hang on to power, and they are tightening it up so hard on us. We don't want this. It's being foisted on us. But if we don't get organized and treat this like the war that it is, we'll all end up casualties. It's getting worse with every successive generation. Each new generation now is facing worse conditions than the last. More debt, more oppression, more violence, fewer protections, fewer opportunities. The only way we ever got some part of the pie back in the 20th century was militant, organized movements for socialism that had major successes in certain parts of the world. And then in other countries, we supported those successes and we tried to import as much of those successes over here as we could. Who are we? We, the class-conscious, anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-heterosexist, working-class movements. All of those things, all those prejudices I just named, they're all part of how capitalists stay in control. If we ever want peace, if we ever want this violence to end, we have to get organized and we have to end it because they are not going to end it. We're not just going up to some point where the capitalists say, oh, okay, we've had enough now. You all run along and they're going to let us off the leash. No, that's not going to happen. It's just going to get worse and worse. Here on this YouTube channel, we do audiobooks of socialist history, socialist theory, and we apply it to current events, just like we did in this video. But learning about it isn't enough. It's a great first start, and honestly, it takes a few years sometimes just to wrap your head around how big this system is, how far back it goes, and just how deep they've been screwing us. But ultimately, we need to join socialist organizations, not the Democratic Party, not organizations that support the Democratic Party, let alone the Republican and Libertarian parties. I don't think anyone in their right mind thinks that those things are really for the people. They are there for capital. They're there for the very wealthy. They're for people who own lots of debt, who own lots of apartments, who own lots of profit-making assets. That's who the political system is owned by. That's who it works for. We currently are not organized, and we've got to get organized. A lot of the institutions we used to have that represented the working class in some way, labor unions, etc., they've been hollowed out over the last 50 years. There's a resurgence now. Everybody's got to get on board with this. Ride the wave, build the momentum, spread the wave. It's got to happen. And it can happen. It can be done. Look at what we just talked about in this video. The system is violent, yes. It's trigger happy, yes. But it's also sloppy. It's arrogant. It relies on the notion that there will be no organized resistance. Not really, anyway. But as the working people of the United States realize that we have less and less to lose every single year, the closer we come to people saying together, you know what, I'm afraid, but we're going to feel that fear and stand up anyway, because if enough of us do, we're going to win. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. Thanks to our current patrons whose names are on the screen. Anything that you can do to spread this video, further this discussion, is greatly appreciated. And we will catch you in the next video.